Man, I can't wait to clear Canto 7. Not necessarily for, just the other story stuff that happens afterwards. Honestly, mostly for Mirror Dungeon Hard, because goddamn Mirror Dungeon Normal is so boring and also does not give you nearly as much reward. Hey, welcome back to more Limbus Company. I'm SlayerMathis, and last time we got a bunch of Uptide 3s for our Tremor units, and this time we will be doing one more of those, because we have enough for Thumb or so. And I actually think I'm not going to view this one's Uptide. Actually, I think we can afford to.
이 천퇴 성도의 이름을 감추어야 한다는 점 다소 아쉽지만 날개 돋은 듯한 호랑이
Cool as fuck.
내비칠 수 있으니 이 정도로 만족하지.
I understand that the room may be disorderly, but I insist that you sit anyway. Puff. Air rushes out of the leather chair. Sound fills the empty, quiet room with its at once sophisticated and suffocating momentousness. At the center of it all is the child, sitting with one leg over the other in an overbearingly assured manner. The room is practically decorated with mutilated bodies and disturbingly thorough splatters of blood, but he does not seem to mind it one bit. I trust you would find the present state of my office acceptable, if I keeps lessons and manners with utmost seriousness. I've heard the stories indeed, but I understand your request very well. Perhaps one might assume that this is also a prepared scene drawn with intent. The person sitting opposite him can also not be underestimated. She simply smiles before producing a small piece of paper as though she was sitting in a normal, average room that was not painted top to bottom with remnants of vicious violence, whatever. And they expect someone of higher station given the private one-to-one meeting request, but let me treat you with better manners. It seems that your station deserves as much. Apologies for my earlier effrontery, my lady. I am willing to self-mutilate according to the Thumb's rules of respect as much as you would like. The paper she handed him seemed to have been a business card of sorts. The child gently took it from her hand and placed it in a fancy golden card holder, Jesus, with reverent care. Well, it is no interest to me whatever you would choose to do with yourself, but I understand that stopping would also cause you some undue trouble. Do as you will. Oh, actually, fresh blood can really stain the clothes, unlike dried blood, so I would prefer if you didn't engage in self-inflicted corporal punishments. I'm highly impressed by your lack of concern for the rigidity of hierarchy, and your considered behavior befitting your nobility. He's someone deserving of proper respect indeed. It's nothing. Nothing compared to what I'm about to ask of you. The child's words convey a deep emotional gratitude, but his tone is flat and motionless as stone. The person sitting opposite him speaks with words that are gentle, but it is clear that they shroud certain inscrutable intents. In this bizarre juxtaposition, the person continued to explain a plan of sorts. By the time she was wrapping up her elaboration, even the ever-stoic child could not help but furrow his brows at an almost imperceptible angle. Well, it may be discourteous. This is, after all, my office. I do not believe that my subsequent request would go against reason. May I have your permission to light a cigar? I don't mind. It's obviously a very premium cigar rolled from fine leaves, which smell fragrant enough. Thank you. I appreciate your understanding, my lady. He trips the tip off the cigar with a cutter, sharp blade slicing through with ease. A smoldering, faint ember lights up at its end. The child puffs out a plume of smoke and an exhalation that was more like a deep sigh. The conversation continues. To summarize her offer, you would like me to serve the role of a clan member in this family hierarchy or have hung you on the side of the Shi family. She nods wordlessly. The child continues. And if the next hierarch is not one from the Shi family, to capture the hierarch to be, and plummet Hong Yuan into chaos. I'm certain that my lady is discerning enough to understand the ramifications of such an incident will inevitably spread beyond the political conflict between the families. Your request is that we obtain the blast of firepower signaling the start to a wind war. Please illuminate me if my assessment is incorrect. That is not what I said. But even if such were the case, what about it? Oh, don't tell me, is this too much for your organization to handle? The child waits a moment before inhaling deeply from his cigar. In that brief moment, the child most likely completed any and all calculations and simulations of what the situation entailed. Your higher placement in the hierarchy does not grant you the right to say to my face whatever comes to your mind. There is no such thing as too much for the Thumb. Your statement has room to be interpreted as an expression of disrespect to the syndicate for the syndicate itself. You do so would be disrespect to his esteemed underboss, meaning to punish you would not go against the tenets of our organization. I will now present you before you an opportunity to claim that my interpretation was but a misunderstanding. Of course, but it was a simple misunderstanding. The child seems to have won this bout of subtle yet palpable psychological warfare. He managed to make the opponent's eyelids flinch for the first time. Very well. Then we'll understand your proposition in a more literal manner. Please allow me to inquire about your preparation for the task at hand. The child did not let this brief moment of weakness pass. Biting lightly into his cigar, the child rose from his seat and grabbed a fistful of ammunition from his belt and placed them on the table between them. We call them tiger mark rounds. The city makes it rather difficult to make liberal use of ammunition, but these are quite special even among them. Not to mention the cost of my subordinate's propellant ammo. In addition, I must also ask you if you are really prepared to pay the price of letting me loose. Be assured, however, that once we are committed to a mission, we do make liberal use of the ammunition. Take this into consideration. Do you really think the Shi family, one of the 4 great houses, has such a thing as monetary concerns? That is not the concern I'm speaking of. My concern is about how you, someone who is not even from the Shi family, can mobilize such a significant amount of capital. Doesn't my business card clearly state the name of the Shi family? It takes more than sitting around or the title of capital. Okay, but what of it? Does that have to be a part of the family to meddle in their affairs? I'm sure you, of all people, should know. That blade. That's been forged to a rather fancy powder, hasn't it? We'll take the contract. Oh my, that's good news. I'll send my underlings to share further details at a later date. Let us part this meeting for now. The child had clearly won that invisible fight, so what was it that turned the tables on him so easily? It is no surprise, of course. No one could expect that she knew so much about the child, even down to his deepest secrets. Once the guests left, the office was silent again, save for the sound of the child exhaling plumes upon plumes of smoke at a uniform interval. She knows the origin of the Tantui's star blade. She also Pinky? No. It's possible that someone of her station could have heard hints or vague tales about the Pinky. Doesn't matter. Someone's this close by, so suppose I shall encounter them when the Sigma burns hot. Pinky cannot help but summon only those who are nearby. Besides, this is good work for the fun, and reasonable. More than anything, however. I think this will be fun. What are our sense of anticipation? With a clear, high-pitched noise of clinking metal, the spent bullet casings popped out of the child's blade. A few seconds later, he lands. 18 Tiger Mark rounds spent. The child sweeps his belt and contemplates. Contemplating if he should use the Savage Tiger Mark rounds, the powers of which are greater than the Tiger Mark rounds. Of course, simply changing for different type of ammunition doesn't immediately make him stronger. The power of the Tantui's star blade comes from the user, and the judgment call on when he must use which bullet. Jiala and guards. So much for the protector of the noble Jiala family. And for quite the disappointing task. The child probably didn't even have to use the Tiger Mark rounds to defeat them, but he rolled the blade with the Savage Tiger Mark rounds anyway. And this is all the fun they have to offer. I suppose we must find entertainment to the freedom of getting to split this blade with the pen. The cost of his ammunition was coming from the client's pocket anyway. He'd rather choose excitement over frugality. The sum that the client brought, the foes I faced thus far has been so tasteless. Perhaps she must chuckle. She not then. Something stopped the child. He looks toward the sound of footsteps approaching from a distance. The approaching footsteps belonged to a rather large group. The child instinctively sensed that. This was the moment he was hired for. They were running late. The child, just the child to know, one wonders. The ennui drove him to relish this dance for but a moment. That unbeknownst to him, his lips were twisted into a grin. Of course, with everything in the cantos that we haven't reached yet, we'll eventually get the context of who it's based off of and all that stuff. That said, I'm only, like, pretty sure I know who the client is for this. But even then, I'm not certain, even after having played through Canto 8 as well as the current Intervallo, Spring Cultivation. This place is huge. That was my first impression of the warp train station. So this is... Don Quixote shouted violently, immediately recovered from her previous apprehension at the sheer possibility that she might be separated from Rocinante. So each nest has one of these massive structures in them. Got nothing? Only know anything about what they're asking. He threw gesturing toward Merceau with his chin. Every warp train station has been built with the general design philosophy that draws from their respective architectural idiosyncrasies. It can also be said that many critics in relevant fields believe the warp train station is one of the many cultural cornerstones of the city. I have no idea what happened, but he just started treating Merceau like a walking encyclopedia from time to time. Merceau! Young Merceau! Lo, is that passage over yonder one from the west? Incorrect. Leather-based clothing, metal armor, predominant fashion to it. All trends often visible in the outfits of the Western population. The individual's cloth-based style is something ubiquitously observed throughout the population of the North and South. They are largely considered to be an Eastern fashion trend, rarely seen in the Western. Prithee, slow thyself, I must make a record of thy lectures. What wisdom dost thou have to impart regarding the fashion of the northern region? I have once spied in a magazine that thou art garbed in puffy, loose-fitting outfits. Understandably so, given the colder climate of the region. Opportunity for first-hand observation is standing before you now. 3 seconds of screaming duet, one of utter fascination, the other of unmitigated frustration. What the shit? You nearly blew it! I ain't drums! I want to talk. Dude, I've got a normal frequency range expansion to be playing my eardrums. Holy shit, mate! Now get the hell out of my way! You're blocking the walkway like a ragtag beta hicks who's never even seen a walk train before. Damn it, I take the train all the way here for an expedition, only lose my target, and now these assholes are trying to blow up my eardrums. Great, just great! I love this! Guys, isn't that obvious we've never been to Warframe before? And the round trip ticket fee came straight out of my dang pocket! Watch out, big fella. Something like it seriously hurt to keep swinging those forearms around. Each one holding a weapon to boot. Prithee, wilt thou stand still for but a moment to satisfy a few inquiries of mine regarding thy outfit? Oh yes, standing in absolute stillness for 5 minutes sometimes. Seriously! The fixer with a particularly impressive set of prosthetic arms spent a few minutes venting several of its numerous grievances at us before storming off to a different platform. Indeed, 'tis grand, the city of sundry odd personalities. Pretty sure he was thinking the same thing. I guess there are a lot of people in the city with full-body prosthetics. So Regillus slowly walked up to our group. Well then, a rendezvous at the destination. But the lustrous red gaze not right alongside us. The group policy demands that fixers bestow with a coat and with board on a train specifically prepared for them instead. Like running first class plus or something? That's a color fixer for you, I guess. Special treatment for the wings no matter where he goes. Karen wants to go back to Mephi. Mephi will be lonely. I've told you before, Karen, 3 separate times actually, each time I bought you one of those candies that people are allowed aboard the freight cars. Then, Miss Faust. Yes. Regillus, after exchanging no look with a nod and Faust, escorted the previously peeved Charon away. Dante, let us proceed this way. We followed Faust's guidance to the entrance of a train car. Yeah. The cars are starting to come back. Oh, hey, it's supposed to be the favorite complimentary food and drink with first class seats. Heck yeah, of course. Quality stuff like these gotta be included in the same pricing. The general response to this room is so surprised at the rows upon rows of expensive looking sizable capsules. Flash freeze hibernation, huh? These will literally freeze our bodies in a flash? Are these flash freeze hibernation devices safe? Please elaborate on your exact definition of safe. These things are supposed to freeze a solid, right? Can you really come back from something like that? A flash-free hibernation device will put you in a temporary state of death caused by rapid cellular cryptic preservation process. However, the rapidity of the process provides damage to your cells during the phase exchange. Therefore, in most normal cases, this will not cause any issues. Faust is aware that this model is fully resolved cell membrane breaching issues caused by cryogenic density change or by ice crystal growth on water molecules. I missed about half of what you said, but your point is that it's safe, right? Yes, as far as Faust is aware. Even if an issue were to arise during the journey, because everyone will be reverted to their states at the beginning of the train, that upon arrival, there won't be any lasting complications from the said problem. You got some real talent in drowning out some of the symbols, yeah, it's safe to so many words, seriously. Indeed, as Faust's talents are not limited to their field. That still leaves a lot to be worried about. Just as I was wondering, however, I realized that there was something odd about the way she phrased that answer. As far as Faust is aware, I was saying that it could be wrong. As a general rule, Faust is not heir. However, Faust is also not a divine being. There's certain information in the world that Faust has yet to have access to. Therefore, while Faust may speak the facts, what is said may not always align with the truth. Okay. Don't go with first class for nothing, I guess. P Corp's way up there in the northernmost corner of the city, but it's only take us there in the blink of an eye, huh? Wonder how the time saver. Prepare thyself for Shenante, thus begins thy long jaunt! I've been meaning to ask Don Quixote, do you ever, wash those shoes? Where did that come from, Yoshi? I mean, think back to when we were inside that whale. That whale boob got all kinds of bits of gross slimy bits in us, not our clothes, our shoes, everything. Yeah. You probably forget to get that bloody, fishy, fleshy gunk out of our clothes. This really isn't something I want to revisit, but yeah. Hey, you guys remember how Don Quixote never took her shoes off once during their whole ordeal? Yes, they do look a bit filthy. I ask thee, dear compatriots, hast thou ever witnessed an errant knight who leaves the side of their beloved steed? I say I've witnessed a night before, though. But thou shalt know! Stop it now! Behold it, hearken to it, and remember it well! Don't spare us even a moment of quiet, do they? Have you been on one of these Otis? I've been treated to premium VIP seats of similar grandiosity back when. There's nothing to fuss over. Otis, who is sitting there and shaking her legs, suddenly asked Faust a question. Confident no accidents ever occurred in these first-class cars, yes? In order to prevent a case of unnecessary anxiety and misgivings among the sinners, the history of accidents that has occurred aboard work trains will not be shared. Wait, what the? I'm gonna leave them soon. This is for Warp Train BW2612, bound for P Corp. Boarding period is ending soon. The sinners, who were either leisurely enjoying their complimentary snacks or taking a look around the first-class car, suddenly became a lot busier. Then let us hurry and enter our capsules before it's too late. Why is it this? The other sinners made it to the capsule no problem, but I feel like I was the only one who was fumbling. Is it anxiety, Dante? I think so. Initiating warp in 10 minutes. Allow me to assist you. Sound as though you're leaning back, and Faust expertly guided me into the capsules as though she'd done something like this before, and pressed the button inside the capsule that closed the hatch. I like how Don is super excited about what we got. Don. That I think is Faust. No. Which one of these is Faust? That's Honolulu, I can tell that much. That's definitely Don. That's Honolulu. Yisong. Yisong, Faust, and then that's too far away to tell. Then it worries too much. We meet again about a moment, Dante. Thought I heard the brief sigh, but the hatch shut tightly before I could ask her anything. Initiating warp. Please confirm that your seatbelts are firmly fastened. The last thing I saw before my capsule began to fill with gas was Faust climbing to her own capsule opposite mine. I had no idea then. What she really meant by we'll meet again in about a moment. Dante. One thing I knew for sure was an inconceivable situation has occurred. That something had gone seriously wrong. We'll actually get to the first fight, even though it'll be a little bit past the 20-minute I usually try to aim for. We're here already? I guess that's not an exaggeration at all. It really happened in the blink of an eye. As always, Faust was giving me her usual look, which is a complete lack of any emotive expression. Which, I suppose, is why I didn't immediately register that something had gone awry. No, we are not yet at our destination. Huh? When I finally came to, and after I had some time to digest that odd reply, I looked up at her face once again. Because her expression was more antsy than usual by a microscopically minuscule degree. So the train is still running? Yes. Then where are we? I believe we are currently stranded in an unidentified dimension. Coordinates unknown. I took a reflexive, deep breath from the sheer horror of the numerous implications stuffed in that dryly delivered sentence. When that passed, the first thing that struck my mind was that we were about to suffer the very thing we were so worried about. Nicely. I soon found myself calming down. This had to be part of Faust's plan. Probably Faust coming from a mile away. I'm sure she's probably about to tell me every little detail of her plan that will help us out of this situation. It's all just part of the plan, right, Faust? There was an unusually long silence from Faust. You are half correct, yet half incorrect. With that, Faust left me to flounder in the chaotic stream of vaguely terrifying information as she began stopping by each capsule to wake the sinners. Yeah, ready? Man, really having the blink up now. Already here? Real? Really having the blink up now. I guess we was really no. No. I'm not uttering a single word. There was a brief cheer, a little hurrah about regaining our colors, followed by a flat-toned explanation of her current predicament, which was then followed by a long, loaded silence. Which was a sequence of events that I had the pleasure of watching play out on about 10 consecutive occasions. Dante, I understand your confusion. However, perhaps an elaboration of our present circumstances is necessary. Brings us to the present. Let me get this right. Train's still running. We're driving through some unknown dimension. Well, about that strike with me, that's quite dramatic. Most importantly, you're saying that we already knew this would happen, Faust? Yes. What's wrong with you, huh? Sinners began to each voice their anger. Of course, this wasn't the first time Faust and McGill's intentionally and knowingly omitted certain details about events in our path. Insane? It's not like we can just retreat or jump out of the door and stuff hits the fan. The door is nothing near immediate destruction of the physical body. Hey, Faust, at least you know what to do like always you do, right? You got a plan, right? Right? Faust, whom I'd rarely ever seen at a loss for words, was unusually slow to respond. Not with the last sort of out of it today. She gives me a sideways glance. It must be something she can't discuss in front of the sinners. Let's pause for a bit. She said something that inconceivable has happened. The other sinner's anger was completely understandable, and it also makes sense that this continued lack of communication was harming her trust in Faust. We can go over the situation from the start, okay? But just letting things play out might really turn everyone against Faust, and for good. Besides, I doubt Faust woke us up in the middle of this trip just to spite us. First things first, I gotta get the sinners to calm down, and then I'll ask Faust to tell us what happened. There's a problem, we'll figure it out and deal with it as we move along. What's going on, Faust? All of it, and in a way that we can understand. Let's hear out first. Is that okay with you guys? If you say so, I'll go along with it. Well, I suppose losing my rag I rarely ever did anything. Thank you. Then, some time, the gist of Faust's explanation was as follows. The cause of this issue, as always, involved a certain contract and a unilateral decision from the higher-ups of Limbus Company. W Corp caught wind of Limbus Company's recent distortion contract management for not promotions, and decided to contract us to deal with a mysterious repeated series of incidents suspected to have been caused by distortion, after multiple failed attempts to resolve it on their own, of course. The distortion themselves likely did not pose a problem for W Corp. Based on the available information, it can be determined they would have all been neutralized as soon as the train arrived, and any transformed passengers would have reverted to their human forms. But the real issue was that the passengers were disappearing. Passengers spirited away? Alas, such is the possibility aboard these trains, is it not? That is the question for which we must discover the precise cause and effect of. Did W Corp share anything to get us started? That appears to be the most prominent cause of this misunderstanding. He explained that W Corp refused to share anything about the trains because they were concerned about maintaining the secrets of their singularity. Maybe that's exactly why they started an upstart business like Limbus Company to deal with this, now that I think about it. We wouldn't even know where to start if we didn't have access to the information that the identity cards had to offer. Faust produced what appeared to be a keycard with the W Corp logo on it before continuing with her explanations. However, we were given this master keycard that can open and close the hibernation capsules at will. We may return to our respective capsules as soon as the contract is fulfilled and safely complete the rest of our journey as we had planned from the beginning. Bloody wings. Every single one of us has been absolutely bombing. I think it's been unkind of them to ask us to finish the puzzle without all the important pieces. At least T-Corp, their chief executive director, tagged along with our assistant. That's when she kindly explaining so many new things to us. It sounds like Miss Faust was stuck between a rock and a hard place herself. Some sitters grew more receptive after her explanations, albeit with a sigh. I would have appreciated if you at least gave us a hint. I understand where you're coming from, but it's not like there's someone out there monitoring your every move and every word, right? That is... I'm not devoted was willing to let this go without saying a piece. Next time I'll take your inputs into account. And that's everything I can do for her. It's an undeniable truth that Faust is disappointed in the sinners with what she's done. But she has Faust, after all. I'm sure she has backup plans to get us out of the situation. So what's up next on our agenda? That sounds done, right? Sounds not like got it right away for 1,000 years inside this metal box. That is something you must first discuss with Dante. Discuss? But discussing things with other people is very unlike Faust. What are we discussing, Faust? We must converse at a lower volume, Dante. Why are we whispering? Your secretive attitude only exacerbated my already battered sense of safety. My connection to Gesellschaft, Faust, has been severed. What? I cannot access Faust's knowledge at the moment. I guess I really was right to be anxious. Can't believe it. Faust got disconnected from her Discord server. And here we are. We'll grab, because this is, hold up. Because this is Dawn's Canto, we will have her be in our slot 1. Okay, this is the first time that we have access to backup units. I didn't know exactly when it was. Probably everything after the first will just have be our strongest potential units. I guess you would be, you'd be Fire Fest, I think would be a little bit better for you. High show, and then, yeah, that works. Sure, why not? What do you mean you can't? I mean it in the most literal sense. My access to Faust's input and information, which has always been readily available, is completely severed. What if everything about the situation is something you don't have access to yet, like you said last time? One cannot completely dismiss that possibility, but even that is uncertain. Every answer Faust was given was always full of confidence and methodical expertise. I don't think she's ever said a sentence that was this full of speculation and doubt. And then, Faust, you are... Yes. At this moment, I am limited to operating only with my knowledge. I cannot discern the cause of this disconnection. More than enough precautions have likely been taken in case of interdimensional travel, but perhaps Faust will not take into account the occasion in which we may have access to an unidentified dimension such as this. Or even if it was taken into account, this particular dimension may not yet have been subject to cross-observation. If that is not the case, then No, never mind. There's something to suggest that my connection to Faust would be lost, not even as we board the train. To be honest, this is a rather disagreeable situation for me. Alright, for now, changes everything. I recall the last thing I saw before my hatches to the castle closed, when Faust told me not to worry too much. Just a minor setback? Nothing we can't beat, right? We got this. Again, to minor look, I was trying to convince myself. As a manager, my job is to calm everyone down and set their sights on the future, just as Faust did for me immediately before the hatch closed. If you're right about why we were disconnected, then problem will solve stuff once we're off the train. And if we ever do run out of options, I'll just turn the clock and see what happens. Don't stress yourself too much. We still got a lot of work with. You acknowledge my clock, sinners, and I could feel my confidence taking a hit with every word that came out of my metaphorical mouth, but that seemed to be enough for Faust. She nodded. Understood. And to the senators. The fact that we are currently confined for warp training operation must be a source of enough stress. I believe that sharing Faust's current state with them would add an unnecessary source of tension. This door ain't gonna do anything. We're all gonna butt once it opens. How many times do I have to tell you I'm not even strong enough to break this door down? A billion years in this box. Yeah. Well, now, do you have to take a search and sweep around, or each car or something? In the grand scheme of things, yes. Faust cleared the air with a cough before continuing. By A-Corp standard time scale, approximately 3 days have passed since our departure. As per the contract between Limbus Company and W Corp, I acquired the master keycard placed inside my capsule and just the hatch settings that automatically open in 3 days. 3 days, huh? I feel like I just blinked and I guess it's hibernation for you. As you were all informed prior to boarding, there is no way for the economy class passengers to enter the first class car. That's why this place has remained untouched. For cross-referencing my own deductions and W Corp's rather fragmentary explanations, I assume that the situation is currently under progress in the economy class cars. They thrust the shut of one another and turn their limbs off all that mess. I doubt that. I don't think it's bad in just 3 days. That's supposed to be a business as usual for W Corp, right? Well, there's something else that's out there on Earth without us to deal with it. Precisely, in my opinion, it is. Hold that thought for but a moment. Just as Faust about to kill Don Quixote raised her index finger to her lips and saying to her to be quiet. Dust. Dost thou hear aught as I do? Scratching, nay, rapping, forsooth, past escape must be. As Don Quixote kept listening with her ear to the door, now an expression of half curiosity and half horror appeared on her face. It is possible that there must be Lady Faust? After that very distressful noise, everyone simultaneously turned their heads to look at Faust, who closed her eyes briefly in thought. Please step up aside for a moment, Don Quixote. It would be best if I observed with my own eyes. The actor produced the master keycard from her pocket and approached the panel installed next to the door. Hang on a minute. You're gonna open the door? I intend to follow your usual flavor of suggestion, he beefed with. That there are times which physical altercation is preferable to detached ruminations. My suggestion? Well, I ain't gonna disagree with you there, but what's gotten into you, lass? After all, I'm not gonna deduce anything without seeing it myself. After a brief mechanical hideous creature suddenly crashed through the open door and charged wildly in our direction. It's a zombie apocalypse! Ah! Wouldn't be the first time, weirdly enough. Except now it's blood bags. They're actually vampires, not zombies. Oh yeah, I haven't shown off Thumb Rousseau's kit at all yet. Or just Thumb Rousseau in general. He has 12 rounds of ammo. After he uses those, he'll switch to a different type of ammo. Which, yeah. He will have all of that. It's very nice. And the big thing with him, unless a very particular set of order of circumstances happens, Thumb Rousseau can't be staggered. Okay, well he can be staggered, but he recovers immediately afterward. Basically, Thumb Rousseau has two different forms. He has his base form, and then upon either running out of ammo, being staggered, or using his counter, he will switch to his second form, which, generally speaking, I believe it does more damage and takes more damage. Again, roughly speaking. The double so once he runs out of ammo the second time. But, yeah. This is a really weird theme that I have right now. I mean, it is all Tremor, which is nice, but it's a weird selection of Tremor units. Just because of what we all have available. Lady Faust, however similar it appears they may have been to the passages. Fairly, it is as though they were in a complete want of sense. The people politified by the whale. Don Quixote hesitated until the last second to raise her weapon against them. She hung her head mournfully. Normally, Faust would have told her more information about those monsters before the fight began, and she would not have been burdened by the sheer thought of bringing harm to the innocent. Faust began searching the area, closely observing various bodies in the general area for information. You appear to be particularly inquisitive today, Miss Faust. Yeah, aren't you usually the one who has all the answers while we're whacking our brains trying to come up with something? Instead of starting to feel that there's something off about Faust's behavior, or even soon realize there's something wrong with Faust. Don Quixote, they're not dead. Huh? As they're closer, how are all tethered to one another by something, are they not? Oh! It appears that the flow of time has ceased in this space, therefore it follows that the connections that tether the body to life and away from death remain intact. To my relief, Faust managed to correctly figure out what was going on like her usual self, even if it took her slightly longer than it usually does. I say, we got this! What's that about? Nothing. I had forgotten the Nautilus stood for content with now allowing to whatever information Faust told us. The flow of time has ceased aboard a warp train, is it? Yisong grew pensive. Seeing that, Faust's lips parted for a moment before closing shut. I was starting to get a good read of her expressions. It was an unmistakable look of regret, however short-lived. Howbeit, would it not be more accurate to muse that the flow of time is decelerated to the point where an extra-dimensional observer is slowed to a stop? Or is it perspective regarding the suggestion? Yes, that is the most rational suggestion you sound. Did Miss Faust just get something wrong? You sound sure as a time master, right? Is there in easier language now that we're talking about it anyway? Gladly, if you allow me. Yisong began to elaborate with gentle enthusiasm. That was close. Speaking brevity, it can be said that death is not an element aboard this train. And can you maybe speak in a little less brevity? To elaborate. Fairly, this one's heart beats still. Don Quixote lowers her head and listens closely to what appeared to be a dismembered torso and shouts with relief. Your state is akin to an unassembled jigsaw puzzle, merely mobilized and separated. Though the corpus has been splintered, the concept is at a state of, for all intents and purposes, eternal delay aboard this train, existence in continuance and moratorium. Forces they are, to be tethered upon the thinnest yet tenacious thread of life. I ill understood what hath been said there, yet they are not dead all the same! If the separate parts are all connected, then it can be said that no matter how entangled their bodies become, it's not impossible to eventually gather their parts together to form a single passenger. Thus, naturally, we can determine how and why the profession W Corp cleanup agent has come to be. I see. Someone will categorize and reconstruct these puzzles once the journey is over. It's really baffling to me that a job like that even exists. Never seen a wing that wasn't baffling in every sense of that word. Still, I guess that means that as long as the train arrives at the station, they'll be put back together like nothing happened. From what I learned through the W Corp identities, their main job was to gather chunks of flesh together to bring them back to their original shape before they boarded the trains. It's a lot more visceral when I have to look at it in person. That's quite auspicious news among the ill tidings indeed. It soon clicked to me what Faust was, though with some awkward effort, trying to do as I watched Don Quixote sigh with relief. Maybe Faust was trying to cheer Don Quixote up in her own way. The other Faust would not find it even necessary to do something like that. Dante, so... Oh, time to whisper, right? Indeed, I intend to collect further intelligence. Is there anything I can tell you? Faust cast a dark gaze toward the chunks of flesh, her gaze remained fixed upon them as she whispered. Are they distortions or abnormalities? I actually wanted to ask you about that. They weren't humans, that's for sure. From them, I felt the same sensation I felt from monsters. Something inexplicable. An unclear sensation or an aura. I felt this somewhere before, I'm sure of it, but I couldn't quite pinpoint the source of the sensation. And one thing I do know for sure is that the sensation was not the same feeling got from abnormalities, distortions, or even the Picatula. If I had to lean one way or the other, I'd say they're closer to distortions. I'm sorry, I don't think they're either of those. It's difficult to be certain at the moment. Again, I'm not sure I can explain this, but they're very, very similar to distortions, but also different. If you had to ask, then I'm guessing Faust doesn't know? Faust may know, but I, at this moment, have no way of knowing. I feel like I should apologize for that. There's no need, Dante. But the information you provide me is rather ambiguous. It has helped me to do something of worth. And collecting intelligence myself and creating deductions based on sparse information is quite... She paused, holding a bloody, slimy chunk of flesh in her hands. You smiled to yourself to go on, hands. Finally, the awakening has begun. I love Ryoshu's just like, so... Ryoshu, the proud mom. We stand Mama Ryoshu. I'm kind of shocked that... Wow, Captain Merceau did not do much. Alright. Regardless, that will do it for this time, and next time? Honestly, I could see about next time finishing up Warp Express. Maybe. Depends on how long the story stuff takes. But until then, see you guys later.